Hi everyone, Materim here with our first game of the Ninth Age. I am playing the Ogre Khan's book versus Michael's Dwarven Holds in a 2,500 point game. We've heard a lot of really good things about this and are really hoping that this game will kind of reignite some love for Warhammer that's been really lacking for our group for a while. So let's go ahead and get into it. Now I'm going to probably use the old terms because I haven't learned the new ones yet, but we start off with the dwarf side with a gyrocopter, a dwarf cannon, and a unit of dwarf warriors with great weapons. Looks like there's 30 of them there. And he has a runesmith there that has a bunch of the new castable dwarf runes on him. Then he has got a bunch of dwarf units, the version of the Iron Breakers with his dwarf king in there. Then he's got the old hammerers with his BSB in there that has the same ward protection against shooting. Then he has another block of dwarf warriors with hand weapon and shield, and the Anvil of Doom, which has apparently gotten much better. Then he's got a dwarf organ gun. That terrain there is actually an open field. We generated terrain just like the book said. And then up on the hill, he has another dwarf cannon. All of them are runed with various things. And you can actually see my first unit in this picture as well. On the right there is a group of 3 Yetis that I have given scouting and skirmishing to, so they end up right there to threaten the cannons pretty early on. Then starting on my right, I have the Rockhorn, a slave giant. I have an outcast, which is the new Gorger that's just there on the corner to remind me to bring him in. Then I have 3 cannoneers, which is the lead belchers. They're pretty much unchanged, except now their cannons fight as if they were halberds at speed 0 in close combat, so that's pretty cool. Then I've got my 1 saber-tusked cat. And one of my favorite new changes is the Noblars. I have 50 Noblars in this unit. They all have spears. They have full command they can take now, and they have or they're called Hill Goblins now. And they have a Hill Goblin champion that is actually upgradable to basically a character. So he's awesome. He has a halberd, and he's up front there. Then I've got my Iron Guts with my standard 3 characters, Tok'ran, who is my Ogre Warlord, Chog, which is level 2 to the new lore of Butchery, and Gat the Old, who's my battle standard bearer with the Dragonhide banner. Then you've got 3 normal Ogre Bulls with full command. Behind them is the Frost Tusk, and then right in front of the building here is 3 more Cannoneers with a Musician. So we go to turn 1, and the dwarves come up a little bit. Under the new rules, they can actually march 3 times their movement if there's no one within 8 inches. So I was kind of hoping he would come up more than that, but Michael's still thinking old dwarves and is still trying to keep them in a nice solid line and not get too close to me right now, which is probably a pretty wise thing. So then during magic phase, he actually gets a lot of spells off. During this whole game, the dwarves pretty much dominate the casting part of the magic phase, which is blowing my mind. But the only damage he does this turn is he gets a little bolt off and only does 1 from the Anvil of Doom, and only does 1 wound to my cannoneers here. And then during shooting, the organ gun shoots at the Yetis, and I'm not sure whether I just had a bunch of modifiers on my side, but the organ gun is nowhere near as good as it used to be, which I guess is okay because it used to be just crazy broken. But he ends up taking his shots out on me and only inflicts 1 wound on the Yetis, which I thought was pretty fantastic, because given the old dwarf shooting, I expected that unit to just evaporate. Then he gets his cannon shot off here and kills one of the ogres who were running interference for the Frost Tusk. I certainly like the way the cannons work now. They're a lot less deadly, and there's actually some drift to them, so it's no longer kind of laser sighted and destroy, which frankly is cool because I think it will leave a lot more room for the big monsters to come on, and the fact that they discounted the big monster cost didn't hurt either. So we go into my turn. Yetis succeed the charge on the cannon. They're pretty much going to eat that and keep going. And here I just decided to make my monsters be very aggressive. Um, the other effect of the spell that he blasted my cannoners with is that they treat everything as dangerous terrain this turn, so they could only come up a little bit. But I really want to get that rock tusk and the giant into something, and see where it goes from there. I'm really hoping to get the Anvil of Doom out of combat pretty quickly because he's got a lot of magical powers in it. Over here, I bring everything up pretty conservatively, I think. I wanted to bring the Saber Tusk up and run Interference. I really want to hit the Hill Goblins into something just to break them with my ridiculous number of ranks. I'm not sure how well they'll actually do against dwarves, but the idea that they sort of tried to make Noblars into a combat unit makes me very happy. Then over here, really, again, I'm going pretty slow. The only big thing is I went ahead and got my cannoneers in the building so that I can go ahead and take care of his gyrocopter, which is hiding behind the building at this point. And during the magic phase, I cast Toughness on like a whole bubble group, and he did a Spell Eater rune on it, which doesn't counter it anymore. It just eats the spell after it goes off, so not great. But then we go into shooting, and my cannoneers absolutely waste the gyrocopter there. Then my cannoneers on this side shoot at the dwarf warriors that are just in the field there and end up killing 3 of them because I did not do very well at all on the shooting. And then during combat, as predicted, the Yetis eat the cannon and keep going. I really was kind of hoping they would go a little further than that, but now I'm going to have to weather at least one turn of them being shot. So we go to the dwarf movement turn, and they move backwards an inch. Awesome to be playing dwarves. So now, like, I think he moved them back, so I need 8s to hit them with either of my Ogre unit or the Noblar unit. So he wants me to hit him and so he can get the counteractions on. Which, you know what, I'm kind of okay, because that Ogre unit is big and scary. So I'm not sure I remember if it was in magic or shooting, but he does end up I think it's in magic. He hits the Yetis with that same spell from the Anvil of Doom that he hit the Cannoneers with last time. So he kills one of them, and now any terrain is dangerous terrain for them. And then he shoots the Stonehorn and does 1 or 2 wounds to it. It's not very much. Then he shoots something else. I don't remember what it is. I think it's... maybe this is the organ gun that does the shooting, but ultimately, by the end of this shooting turn, my Stonehorn has taken 5 of its 6 wounds, which is super not good. I'm hoping now at this point just to get it into something, and maybe it'll do some damage with the 3d3 impact hits it gets, but I'm very nervous to try and keep him alive. And then we go to my turn, and I just decide to go for it. We measured it out, and the Stonehorn was in the flank of his warriors, so I couldn't, or he couldn't stand and shoot. So I charge into the flank there, charge the giant into the front. He stand and shot, and it hit nothing. And then I cross-charged to put the Noblars against his Ironbreakers and his king, and my Ogres went against the Hammerer equivalent. So, I get nothing off in magic. I've got no shooting that I can take, so we go straight into combat. I kill 4 dwarves with the impact hits, and then my giant yells and ends the combat, and obviously the dwarves don't break. I'm stupid because now the slave giants have a rule that let you re-roll the result they get on their giant table, and I really should have taken that. Then we go in the middle here. I lose 2 of the ironclad ogres and annihilate his dwarf unit in the center. The hammers are just, they die. And I lost 10 Noblars, and I actually killed, I think, 1 Ironbreaker. But I'm stubborn, leadership 8 rerollable, so I'm not going anywhere right now. And that's pretty cool. Then we go to his turn. He decides to go ahead and charge these dwarves into the 2 ogre clansmen that I have, just to go ahead and wipe them. You also So no, and I forgot to mention it, that I brought the Gorger on the board last turn, so he'll get to charge next turn. So during Magic, the dwarves out-magic the hell out of me and buff a bunch of units. So I'm like -1 to wound. He's got plus like rerolls on armor. It's just crazy. My Noblars can't do anything. They get killed. I'm still stubborn, but I roll 11 and a 10 on my leadership. So the Noblars break, but they do escape. Unfortunately, the Ironbreakers get past where I can charge them next turn. Over here, the dwarves warriors kill the 2 ogres and then overrun and fail their overrun completely and end up an inch away from the frost tusk. Then we do the second round on the other side. The giant and Stonehorn end up breaking his dwarf unit here. There's 3 of them that survived. I tried to give chase. The Stonehorn ended up slamming into the Anvil of Doom. The giant chased after him but did not catch. So there's 3 dwarves like 2 inches from the edge of the board on his side. So we go to my turn. First thing I do, obviously, is charge the cannon there with my Outcast, or Gorger, whatever you want to call them. Then on this side, I charge the remaining 3 dwarves with the giant, so they run off the board, because I really didn't want to risk them rallying, because that would have been just my luck. Then over on this side, the Noblars do rally, and they've turned around to face the dwarves. I got the Frost Horn way the hell out of dodge. He turns around and runs the other way. The Saber Tusk comes up to block things, but it's been so long since I've played this game, I am not blocking well. And then my Cannoneers kind of position so they can do some shooting. And this is just a better shot of where my Stonehorn, or my Frosthorn, ended up. I do manage on Magic this time to get the -1 to hit and -1 leadership on his Ironbreaker unit. And as you can see, my Ironclad Ogres have turned to face the flank of that unit. So shooting didn't really accomplish much, so we go into combat. The Outcast obviously eats the Dwarf Cannon with very little trouble. The Stonehorn managed to get very lucky against the Dwarf Anvil, and a lot of my impact hits got through, so that the actual attacks from the Ogre on top and the Beast managed to finish them off. But that thing's really hard to kill. It's got really good armor and a ward save, and there's 4 guards on it now. No characters, but it took a lot to take it down. Then over here we go to the Dwarf's turn. The Dwarf warriors here with the great weapons charge into the flank of my Saber Tusk, which is why I said I did not redirect well. And then his Ironbreaker dwarves turn around to face my Ironclad Ogres. So during Magic, I find out that most of the spells that he was throwing was actually coming from the Runesmith, so he buffs up his Ironbreakers again to make him be a pain in the butt for me to do anything to him next turn. And then he kills the Saber Tusk, overruns, clips the Noblars, and they close the door to them as such. So we then go to my turn. I end up slamming the Frost Tusk into the flank of these Dwarf Warriors. I slam my Ogres into my Ironclad Ogres into the front, my Cannoneers into the flank, and everybody else just kind of starts circling up to try and get in if any holes get made. So we go over here. I have Tok'ran challenge his Dwarf King accepts, and Tok'ran butchers his Dwarf King because Michael can't roll a single one of his 4-up saves, and I just ate him. We struck Simo, though, so he inflicts 2 wounds back on Tok'ran. But then between everything else in there, I cut the unit basically in half. He needs a 3 to stick and gets it. Then over here, my Noblar leader actually kills 2 dwarves. Out of his 3 attacks, he kills 2 dwarves, which is pretty awesome. They still do a lot of damage, but again, he needs a relatively low number, and he freaking rolls it again. So I'm a little frustrated at this point, but I think I've reduced his units enough now where it's just going to be cleanup from here on in. And we go to his turn. He has nothing to do. He throws up some more magic, which doesn't really stop me. I eliminate the remaining hammer unit to a man and turn everybody to face inward. And we go another round of combat here, and I lose a bunch, and I just can't roll to kill him. So I think I actually lose this combat, but I'm stubborn. We either tie or I lose this combat and I stick. I think that might have been it. But either way, we're not going anywhere, and we're still holding these dwarves for the end, pretty much. And here it comes. I charge everything I've got into this fight. And yeah, it's just going to be a massacre. I don't even think we rolled it out. I think Michael just picked up the unit and that was it. And yeah, he did. He just picked up the unit, so the ogres just swarmed over. The final dwarves left and killed all of the longbeards. So we had a victory for the Ogre Cons in our first Ninth Age game. All in all, it was pretty fun. I'll be honest, it was really weird, and both of us didn't like the fact that the dwarves beat me on casting magic every turn. Like, that felt very weird to us. And honestly, I don't know that I'm a huge fan of the new way magic is done. It seems overly complicated and not really much benefit compared to how we play. I could see where it brings in some balance, but eh. All in all, we were, not unimpressed with Ninth Age, but it really didn't wow us. I think what we've decided to do is that, obviously, I don't think we're going to go back to playing Warhammer as much as we did, regardless of what we do. So I think the idea is we really like some of the changed units. So I think what we're going to do is just treat the army books from Ninth Age like they were White Dwarf articles and just bring those units into 8th edition games that we play. So I think that's going to be the plan. But we did have a good time. It was actually nice to bring the models out and get them on the table and play two fully painted armies against each other. There is something decidedly entertaining about that you don't necessarily get in a game like HeroClix, even though I think for what we're wanting out of our tabletop gaming experience, that's really enough for us right now is the HeroClix. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Obviously, if we do get any more games of this or 8th in, I'll put them up as battle reports, but I wouldn't really hold your breath. I'm not sure when and or if we're going to get to any more. But I do have, like, the next day we played some HeroClix, so I've got another HeroClix battle report I'm going to be doing after this one, and some other just kind of random content. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, if you have any comments or questions, leave them down below, and I'll get back to them as soon as I can. Thanks.